Hello, my name is Erin from Nainoa, and for this report, I will be discussing Edgar Allan Poe's A Descent into the Maelstrom. This short story, set in the Norwegian Sea, follows a guide who recounts his terrifying experience of surviving a violent whirlpool known as the Maelstrom. Through this harrowing tale, Poe delves into the themes of survival, fate, and the raw power of nature, while highlighting the emotional toll such an experience can have on an individual. In the following report, I will explore the story's key themes, characters, and the impact of its unsettling atmosphere. As I said before, A Descent into the Maelstrom is about a survivor of a shipwreck caused by a massive destructive whirlpool called the Maelstrom. He recounts the tale of how he and his brothers, driven by the prospect of an abundance of fish, ventured dangerously close to a massive maelstrom in the Norwegian Sea. As they fished near the hazardous whirlpool, the brothers face disastrous consequences, and the narrator shares his traumatic experience of getting caught in the deadly maelstrom. In the introduction of the story, the narrator and his guide climb to the peak of Helgesen, which overlooks the Norwegian coast. From the cliff, the guide points out the surrounding islands and mountains, sharing their names and providing brief histories about each of them. However, as the ocean currents shift and whirlpools begin to form, the guide's tone becomes more serious, and he then introduces the Maelstrom, a massive and destructive whirlpool, and explains its history and devastating impact over the years as it forms right before their eyes. The guide begins telling his story about how he and his two brothers took the risk of fishing near the Maelstrom. For 6 years, they ventured to that area, consistently catching more fish than the average fisherman. However, on one return trip 3 years ago, as they neared Helgesen, the wind suddenly changed directions. The currents grew stronger and their ship was no longer able to move. A large red cloud appeared in the sky and the wind ceased, and within moments a violent storm broke out. The boat was sucked into the storm, which the guide recalls as an experience of utter darkness. He can't describe the overwhelming force of the hurricane. When the storm subsided, only he and his older brother had survived. The short relief and joy they got from this experience, however, like from their survival, was short-lived as the maelstrom quickly approached, or was quickly approaching. Despite being carried into the whirlpool, the guide felt an eerie sense of calm. Clinging to a barrel tied to the side of the ship, he remained composed, almost fascinated as he studied the objects being sucked into the maelstrom. He began predicting which objects would fall next and noticed that cylinder-shaped items descended more slowly, barely moving downwards even. This realization gave him a glimmer of hope amidst the chaos. The storyteller decides to take a chance and cuts off a piece of rope from his barrel. He tries to signal to his brother to let go of the iron ring and do the same, but the older brother refuses, desperately clinging to it. The storyteller feels the weight of this decision, knowing that his brother's stubbornness will lead to his death. Realizing there's no hope for his brother, the guide makes the painful choice to save himself. He jumps into the funnel, and his gamble pays off. Holding onto the cylindrical barrel, it keeps him afloat in the strong air currents, while the ship sinks to the ocean floor. In the end, the storyteller survives the maelstorms. As the sides of the funnel grow less steep and the bottom rises, he is suddenly thrust back to the surface of the ocean. With the whirlpool vanishing, he then swims for a long time before being rescued by a group of fishermen who were his friends, but they didn't recognize him. The harrowing experience has turned his hair from black to white and aged him dramatically. No one believes his tale, and he assumes the narrator won't either. So let's move on to the symbolisms I got from this story. So first, there's the maelstrom. I personally think that the maelstrom could represent the unpredictable forces of life, nature, fate, and even the subconscious mind. These forces can overwhelm us at any moment, often appearing uncertain and beyond our control. The experience in the maelstrom reflects how, in moments of hardship, time seems to stop, leaving you feeling stuck in a difficult moment, as if life is moving on around you while you remain caught in turmoil. This mirrors how personal crisis distorts our sense of time, making it feel as though we're left behind, unable to escape the present pain. Like life's challenges, the maelstrom can feel like an inescapable whirlpool, drawing you in with its overwhelming force, much like how fate or difficult circumstances can drag us into a state of helplessness. The guide's struggle to survive represents humanity's efforts to face forces beyond our understanding or control, whether they be nature, fate, or life's random challenges. The next symbolism comes from the moon, and in A Descent Into the Maelstrom, the moon can be interpreted as a source of hope and illumination, offering guidance through the darkest times. In many cultures, the moon is also seen as a symbol of inner wisdom, intuition, and insight, especially during crisis. It provides clarity to the guide, just as moments of self-awareness help illuminate the path forward during life's most confusing periods. The moon symbolizes the human spirit's resilience, shining through darkness and offering guidance when one feels lost. Together, the barrel and the moon provide a balance between physical survival and inner strength. The barrel helps the guide stay afloat, symbolizing resilience when everything else is being pulled away. Meanwhile, the moon offers the mental clarity needed to endure, guiding the guide through the storm. The guide's older brother, who clings desperately to the iron ring, represents humanity's tendency to hold on to material possessions or familiar attachments when confronted with powerful, unfamiliar forces. His refusal to let go, even in the face of overwhelming change, symbolizes how people stubbornly cling to security, routines, or the past. This resistance to change reflects fear of the unknown and an unwillingness to adapt, ultimately leading to his death. His fate highlights the danger of staying stuck in time, unable or unwilling to move forward in the face of life's inevitable forces. That's it for the plot, so let's move on to the settings. This story takes place along the rugged Norwegian coast with significant locations like Helgesen, a towering cliff that overlooks the vast Norwegian Sea. From here, the guide points out the surrounding islands and the dangerous waters below. The Norwegian Sea, with its unpredictable currents and treacherous whirlpools, serves as a backdrop to the brothers' fateful fishing venture. The Maelstrom, a powerful and destructive whirlpool, emerges as the central force of nature, embodying chaos and the uncontrollable power of the sea. The atmosphere in A Descent Into the Maelstrom is a blend of tension, awe, and dread. The guide's descriptions of the Maelstrom evoke a sense of awe at nature's power, but also a deep fear of its destructive force. The unpredictable storm and eerie calm as the whirlpool forms create a mysterious, unsettling tone. As the guide faces the whirlpool, the atmosphere shifts to one of desperation and fatalism, with the sense of helplessness and danger underscored by an eerie calmness in his observations. This mix of emotions intensifies the feeling of being at the mercy of nature's overwhelming power. The next thing I'm going to discuss are the characters. So the first character we have is the unnamed storyteller or the guide, which is the protagonist of the story. The second one is the unnamed narrator. The third, the older brother of the guide. The fourth is the fisherman or the guide's old friends, and the fifth is the younger brother of the guide. So the unnamed storyteller/guide is the central character and protagonist of the story, embodying courage, intelligence, and the ability to remain calm under pressure. While he describes himself as weak and scared, claiming he would have been a better guide in the past, his actions suggest otherwise. His calm and analytical mindset becomes evident as he observes the behavior of objects in the maelstrom, leading to the crucial realization that cylindrical items descend more slowly, ultimately saving his life. This intelligence and composure under pressure highlight his resourcefulness. The guide's decision to save himself rather than his brother reflects the complexity of human nature. Though he initially attempts to be selfless, his choice to prioritize survival in the face of the maelstrom shows the tension between altruism and self-preservation. Faced with an overwhelming crisis, the guide realizes that he cannot save both himself and his older brother and makes the painful but pragmatic decision to save himself. His actions highlight the reality that even for the most selfless individuals, survival instincts can take precedence in life or death situations. Going back to this slide for a second, when I said while he describes himself as weak and scared, claiming he would have been a better guide in the past, his actions, like when I said his actions suggest otherwise, even before he tells his story, he was quite he wasn't scared of going to the edge of the cliff. He was composed and calm while retelling his story to the narrator. He wasn't panicked or scared at all. Moving on to the next character, the unnamed narrator. So the narrator serves as a foil to the guide, highlighting the guide's calm and resourceful nature through contrast. While there is little detailed information about the narrator, it is clear that he is not a timid man. His willingness to climb to the top of the mountain and peer over the edge demonstrates his adventurous spirit and courage. However, he differs from the guide in his hesitance and uncertainty. Compared to his companion, the narrator appears weaker and more afraid, emphasizing the guide's resilience and composure in the face of danger. The third character I will be discussing is the older brother. The older brother serves as another foil to the protagonist. While he shares his brother's courage and bravery, he lacks the ability to remain calm under pressure. Amidst the chaos of the maelstrom, the two brothers cling on to objects on the ship to delay their inevitable fate. With the older brother attempting to move his brother's hand to claim the iron ring for himself, his actions during the maelstrom highlight his desperation rather than selfishness. As he is overwhelmed by the fear in the face of certain death, this contrasts sharply with the protagonist's ability to remain composed, think critically, and act selflessly under extreme pressure. Ultimately, the brother's panic and inability to think rationally led to his demise. The fourth and fifth characters, or the final characters I will be discussing for today, are the younger brother and the fisherman. So while the younger brother didn't have a lot of mentions to his character or what he was like, I feel as if his death could be tied to innocence and vulnerability. The younger brother's lack of competence and premature death can highlight themes of fate and randomness of survival. He might represent the innocence of vulnerability of youth, someone who hasn't yet developed the experience or wisdom to navigate through the harsh realities of life. His presence was brief, but it could serve as a marker of what is lost in the chaos. He was less prepared for the challenges ahead, which contrasts to both his older, more hardened brothers. As for the fishermen, they play a more functional role than a personal one, appearing at the end to contrast the guide's extraordinary experience. Their skepticism represents the rational perspective of everyday life, highlighting the divide between the guide's surreal survival and the ordinary world. Their lack of understanding mirrors the theme that some experiences are too profound to be fully grasped by others, reinforcing the guide's alienation and internal conflict as someone who has survived something others would never truly comprehend. Though they don't believe his tale, their kindness in rescuing him shows an underlying humanity. While they don't understand the full extent of his ordeal, they offer help without question. This subtle empathy emphasizes that even in the face of the guide's trauma, human connection remains, even if the others can't fully grasp what he's been through. And that is all for my report on A Descent Into The Maelstrom. Thank you.